Good evening, welcome to the latest live preview show from Last Bob Boxing, joined by all the regulars. Carl, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you.
Håkan, all the way from Scandinavia. How are you, pal?
I'm all good, thank you.
And Harrison, all the way from North Cheltenham. How are you,
yeah,
mate?
North Chat. Yeah, nice to see you. And a couple of off-air comments there about hair that I won't get into, but nice to be back on after a few weeks and some good boxing this weekend.
Yeah,
like Cole says, mate, I'm just jealous because I've got none. Yeah, so interesting card this weekend. This is what I would consider to be a trade card. You're not going to get your casual fans watching these magnificent 7 cards, I don't think, but I think it's a very good card. And some really interesting fights. So we're going to go straight into it, boys. Top of the bill, or what I think is going to be top of the bill. Sam Noakes and Ryan Walsh. Carl, I'll come to you first. Ryan Walsh is having a bit of an Indian summer, right?
Yeah, 38. Beat Reece Mould last time out when he wasn't expected to beat Reece Mould. Let's be honest. One last throw of the dice, isn't it, for Ryan Walsh? He's got nothing to lose going into this fight. Obviously, a bit of a golden boy, Sam Noakes is for Queensbury. Potential banana skin, because Sam Noakes is being lined up with some massive fights. I'd suggest probably on the Riyadh card in February if he comes through this. I think he comes through this. I think Ryan Walsh will just fall a bit short. I think Sam Noakes is a better fighter than Reece Mould, if I'm honest. So. Yeah, props to Ryan Walsh. Good payday out. Get a few more quid in the bank before he hangs his gloves up. But I think this could well be his retirement party this weekend.
Harrison, Ryan Walsh was absolutely devastating last time out against Reece Mould. Didn't give Reece a second to settle. If he comes out blistering like that against Sam Noakes, I just think Sam handles it.
Well, look, Ryan Walsh is an interesting fighter, and it's kind of a funny one. If you'd taken like 3 or 4 years out of boxing when Ryan Walsh was the British champion and the next best thing, and you came back now and you've seen him headlining this card in London, you'd think he was still on that same trajectory. And sadly, that's not been the way it's gone for him. But he has always been a really top-class British trade-level fighter, and he deserves nothing but a good payday out of this. Like you said there about the Reece Mould fight last time out, he never gave him a chance to settle. He was really good from the get-go. Didn't last too long. And I mean, he doesn't. Ryan Walsh at this level is someone I will never ever dismiss immediately, because he has to. He's always just had that nice little bit of quality about him. Really good puncher for a lightweight as well, so he does come with a chance. But I think this is nice placement from Frank Warren and for Sam Noakes, because he's been a fighter who's progressed really nicely in quite a short space of time. And bar, I suppose, maybe Ivan Mendy, he's never really had like a big name on his resume that's going to get him out to these Saudi shows or onto these bigger bills. So this is a really nice spot to try and continue on this British trajectory and take that belt and hopefully move on from there. And I agree with Carl. I just think that Sam Noakes is going to get into a rhythm a bit quicker, I think, than Ryan Walsh will. You might have to be a bit patient at the start. I think Ryan Walsh might just come thundering at him here, because you might think, this is my last chance, I'm going to give this a right go. But I think that Noakes will be able to weather that storm and then into the later rounds. I think this goes to points, personally, but I think Sam Noakes will just be a bit too good for him.
This is obviously for the British Commonwealth and WBO international lightweight titles. Håkan, Sam Noakes is quite heavy-handed. 15 fights, 14 KOs. We saw what Ryan Walsh did last time out. Could Ryan drag Sam into a bit of a war when that's really not what Sam Noakes needs to be doing?
No, I don't think so. I think that Sam Noakes is a bit level above Reece Mould. I was at the GBM show when he knocked out Reece Mould in the first round, and I was very impressed by Ryan Walsh. But I think Sam Noakes is on a different level, and I think Sam Noakes stops Ryan Walsh in round 8, round 9.
I don't think he goes that far. I'm going earlier than that. I think he'll be around round 6. I think Noakes will just outclass him and outpower him, and make Walsh realise that he needs to hang his gloves up. I just think there'll be levels between these two.
Very interesting this for me. I'm a bit like Harrison. You can never write off Ryan Walsh. He's too experienced, and he feels like he's got something to prove, even though he's had all that experience. In his resume will tell you he's been in with much better quality of opponent than Sam Noakes to date. So the experience is obviously all with Ryan Walsh. Sam Noakes is a great operator, though, lads. I see for the first, I don't know, 3-4 rounds, it being kind of the danger zone for Sam Noakes, where Ryan could do anything in the first 4 rounds, and then I think Sam, if he comes through that, which I expect him to, I think then he'll start taking control of the fight. I don't see a stoppage though. I think it goes to points. I think Sam Noakes gets a points win. Either way, as long as he pulls off a decent performance, he puts himself into a really good position to get on one of these big cards, like Carl said earlier on. Okay, moving swiftly on to the next fight. This again is a really, really good fight. A really good fight of a fighter coming through that's earned his stripes against a fighter in Denzel Bentley that's been there, done it, worn the t-shirt. Looks like he might be at the twilight of his career, but you never know. So Brad Pauls, this is for the Brad Pauls v Denzel Bentley. This is for the British, vacant European and WBO international middleweight titles. Khan, I'll come to you first, mate. Brad Pauls has looked really, really good in the fights that people didn't expect him to win. You know, he wasn't expected to beat Nathan Ina. The first one was a draw, very close. The second one, he deservedly won. But Denzel Bentley's got all of the experience. He's been in with much better operators than Brad Pauls. Question is, Khan, does Denzel Bentley have enough left?
I think so. That he has, and after the draw, Paul's draw in the first fight, I wasn't surprised that he won in the rematch. But so he has been very good in the Heaney fights. But when I saw the last Bentley fight, I thought that he looked that, but maybe the opposition wasn't the best one. But I think Bentley could be back to his form he had for a few fights ago.
Harrison, when Denzel Bentley's on it, he's world level or fringe world level. He's proved that with the Janabek fight. He's proved that numerous occasions when he's come up against British and European level. But then he has the odd occasion, like the Heaney fight, like the Felix Cash fight, where he just doesn't turn up. What do you see happening in this fight?
I think you started that perfectly by saying when he's on it, because he's a very interesting fighter, Denzel Bentley. Like, you're bang on. He has got the capability to be boxing at world level. You take no disgrace in losing to Janabek, because obviously he's a bit of a freak, so that's fine. But then you look at kind of other losses that he's had. The Nathan Heaney one, he was poor all night. He didn't box well. Nathan Heaney is never going to win a British title easier in his life. So you're kind of you're betting on the idea that the best version of Denzel Bentley turns up here, and if he does, then he probably is in the right position to win this fight. But then again, I feel bad writing Brad Pauls off, because I've done that like in 3 occasions. The Tyler Denny fight, I thought he would win, but then that franked itself out well because of how well Tyler Denny's done the last 12 months. But then the 2 fights against Nathan Heaney, the first one was just ultra close. You could have gone either way. And like you said there, he got his due diligence in the rematch, deserved to win, stopped them late. So it's a funny one, because Brad Pauls has definitely improved, I think, in the last year, Whereas Denzel Bentley, I wouldn't say he's declined, but I don't think he's gone any further either. But he's not had the names like beating Derek Azaze. He's not, he just hasn't been in the right fights for me. I just don't think he's been taken along the right course and path. He's only 29. You've got to remember that. It's not like we're talking about some 36-year-old veteran here who, if he loses on Saturday night, he's finished at the top level. But if he wants to have that aspiration of being the next British world champion, he's got to be winning this fight, really, from me. And I think he will, but that is planned on the idea that he is going to turn up on his best form on Saturday.
Okay, Cole. Harrison just touched on it there. Denzel Bentley's had 2 fights this year, both in 2-round stoppages against Azaze and Digman. They're obviously not at the same level as Brad Paul's, and they're definitely not world level. Has he had enough this year to put him in the right position to be doing anything against Brad Paul's here?
Well, we'll find out Saturday, won't we, to be honest? But I think there may be a motivational issue here. He's had a taste of the top table in boxing, then comes back and, let's be honest, underwhelms against Nathan Ina and the like. So I'm wondering if it's motivation for following the Yenneback fight, where, let's be honest, he was getting props and people are bigging him up, saying what a great performance, unlucky not to win, blah, blah, blah. To then, with all due respect, come back and start fighting Dignam and people like Nathan Ina, it's going to challenge you for motivation. So I wonder whether there's a motivation issue. And I'll take Harrison's point about his age. However, we are getting towards the stage where it is the last roll of the dice if he wants to operate at world level. He can't afford too many more defeats. So I do think this is a bit of a make or break fight on Saturday. Because if he wants to get beat to Brad Paul, it's a long, long way back to the top table in boxing. So we'll find out Saturday what he's got left in the tank. But to me, he looks like a bit of an undermotivated fighter, to be honest. That's what he smacks of every time I see him interviewed or, when I hear him talk about his career. I worry that he may have made a few quid. Does he get up and do the runs in the morning, etc., etc.? Does he cut corners? We'll find out. Because one thing Brad Paul will do, he will put it on your toes and he will drag you into the trenches. So let's see. Let's see.
I think Denzel Bentley's just a chilled character. You may be right a little bit with the motivation because it's difficult once you've played on the big park. It's difficult to then go back and play with the little kids on the swings, isn't it?
What an awful analogy. Where did you dig that one up from?
Just come to me, mate. You know how they are.
Jesus.
But you know what I mean. It's a very difficult thing. Some fighters do it. Some fighters do it no problem. Other fighters, we've seen it no end of times. Callum Smith's one of those fighters that gets accused of raising his game to the better opponents, and when he's in with someone a bit lower down, he fights to their level.
You could argue Bivol gets that thrown at him.
I think Bentley might be that same fighter, but he needs to be on it against Brad Paul's because, like you say, Brad Paul's won't give in all night. It's very interesting, this fight. Probably the one I'm most looking forward to on the card, if I'm being honest, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Completely depends on what Denzel Bentley turns up. I'm going Brad Paul's points. I think it's a very close fight. Okay, next one, lads. This is for the English heavyweight title. Solomon Dackers against David Adelaide.
Now, this is intriguing.
Well, I think both of these fighters, Harrison, I'll come to you first, mate. I think both of these fighters have a lot to prove. People say Solomon Dackers doesn't hit hard enough. He's not been in with anybody that's caused him any troubles. David Adelaide, you can argue, has only really been in with one fighter that's caused him any problems, and he lost, Fabio Wardley. So he's got a little bit to prove after that. I think these guys are at a level. I think they're very similar in standing. Completely different styles, though. You're going to get David Adelaide's going to come at Solomon Dackers, and Dackers will try and box him away. So, Harrison, give me your take, mate.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're at a very similar level at this stage in their career, and I think the big thing you have to do here is try and find who's more likely to progress. I think firstly, we're all just very lucky that we don't have to watch another round of Daka's fight, that Michael Webster, because even though it was 17 rounds, it felt like 170. It was, two really, really disappointing fights. But that's in the past now, and Daka has got to look on and take this English title with him and see what he can do with it. And he's been all right. I mean, he hasn't done much wrong, but then he hasn't sort of set the world alight or the domestic scene where I don't think many heavyweights would be running away from the opportunity to fight him. I think there's certain fighters that are very well avoided. I don't think he's one of them. And David Adelaide might see this as an opportunity to use a bit more experience and a bit more of motivation, I suppose, to try and get back into the room and be one of the big players in the domestic scene. Like you said there, his only loss comes to Fabio Wardley, who's now like one, maybe two fights away from the world title. So it's interesting the way those kind of paths have diverged, because that fight was only about a year and a half ago. So it's interesting how they've both kind of scaled off, but Wardley's gone in one direction. I would be very, very astute to say David Adelaide can't get back to that level. And I think looking at both of them on face value, from what I've seen so far, I favour Adelaide to get back at the top level quicker than I do Dacres, just because of the way they fight, the styles, the way they kind of pronounce themselves. And I'm probably being a bit harsh on Solomon Dacres there, but I need to see more from him. I need to see a bit of power, just a bit of just more creativity. He's a sluggish heavyweight, but he doesn't have like a massive hand to rely on, in my opinion. So
I think the word boring you're looking for, Harrison.
Yeah, boring. O'Coley's on the card as well, so this could be a bit of a sleeper. But I think David Adelaide should just be a bit too good here, and I think he'll probably stop him around round 5 or 6.
Håkan, Solomon Dacres isn't the most exciting of fighters. He does enough. He just does enough. And that isn't going to cut it at the very top end. He needs to, if he wants to get big fights for big money, he's got to start knocking people out. His record doesn't show that he carries power. In his 9 fights, he's stopped 3. David Adelaide in his 12 wins has knocked out 11 of his 12 opponents. So I don't know. How do you see it panning out, mate?
I agree with Harrison. I think that Adelaide has much more power, and I think that Adelaide could come back after the loss. He has been out for over a year now, but if he has prepared good, I think he could stop Dacres in round 5, round 6.
Okay. Last one on this card that we're going to cover, lads. And Harrison touched on it a minute ago.
Do I not get a say on Dacres then?
Sorry, mate. You carry on.
I'll keep it brief since I've been left out. Dacres never impressed me in Nottingham on the Leeward undercard. He's boring in and outside the ring, if I'm brutally honest. To listen to him in interviews, if you ever have sleepless nights, just play a tape of him. I don't rate him, Dacres. I think Adelaide, if he's got anything about him and he wants to get back anywhere near the high echelons of this heavyweight division, should be beating Solomon. So I think Solomon will stop Solomon Dacres because he won't be able to keep him off him, probably about round 9.
Comment in the sidebar from Rambler. Adelaide is now with the Dark Lord, Adam Booth. Not a big fan, apparently. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Moving swiftly on before I get myself into trouble.
That just took me back.
Yeah. Moving swiftly on before I get myself into any more trouble. Lawrence Okoli. As I said, Harrison touched on this earlier on. Again, another fighter that isn't the most exciting cruiserweight, stroke bridgerweight, stroke heavyweight in the world. This is a heavyweight, by the way, lads.
He looked a lot heavier in the presser today, though. I wouldn't like to think how much he'd put on, but he looked a lot heavier.
Yeah, well, we'll see, won't we? This is a 10 rounder against Hussein Mohammed, who, with giving him the most respect I can possibly give him, has not been in with anyone of Lawrence Okoli's level. This is just a little warm up. This is just a tester at heavyweight to see where he goes. But let's just quickly go around. Carl, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to miss you out this time, mate. So I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'm going for a round 4 stoppage for Lawrence Okola. This guy's got, like, his resume suggests he's been in with no one of Okola's quality. He looks a lot heavier. He's probably coming in stop. He's not coming in to dance around the ring. Let's put it that way. By the looks of him today in the presser, so I expect him to plant his feet and just tee off on this guy. To be honest, round 4, Okola.
Just before we move off this card, Harrison, what's your feeling on these Magnificent Sevens? They're decent, aren't they?
Brilliant. I look, the next couple of weeks, you'll see different sort of podcasts and presentations about award of the year kind of ceremonies and stuff like that. I'm not sure if we're doing one, but there will be plenty of people doing them. You would be quite dumbfounded, in my opinion, to not have Frank Warren as the British Promoter of the Year and possibly the World Promoter of the Year. The consistency of the shows that he's done, not just in the UK, but also, of course, out in Saudi Arabia too, absolutely flawless. He has helped take boxing to new heights and been involved in every big promotion you can think of this year. But to go back to these Magnificent Sevens, I've been to a couple of them, and they're really, really good shows. And like you said, there maybe they are more for the fans. They never seem to have like a star on them. I'd probably be a bit disrespectful because, like Denzel Bentley, it's London. He's going to draw a crowd. The Noakes brothers, they do very good numbers as well. So
they're not stars, Harrison. You're not
no, they're not. They're not at the level, of course, if you're Anthony Joshua, because he's never going to appear on one of these type of cards. As he loses a few more fights, he might do. But they're good cards for hardcore boxing fans, and I think they offer brilliant value for money. If you can get a ticket to Wembley for like 50 quid on a Saturday night, you guaranteed 3 or 4 good fights there, in my opinion. Loads of British titles. Yeah, really, really good cards.
I mean, let's be honest. If we was talking 2 years ago, we was quite critical of Frank Warren, wasn't we, as a promoter? We used to say Eddie Hearn was streaks ahead of him, blah, blah, blah. But now, like you said, for British boxing, Warren's got to be up there for putting the best cards on. Eddie Hearn, you could argue, and you could argue he's neglected the British market a little bit.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that, Carl.
Yeah.
We were very critical of Frank.
Accreditation.
We were very well. It's all about opinions, mate. We were very critical of Frank Warren's undercards.
Yeah.
Let's say he put a really, really good headline on, and then the undercards would fall short. I don't think that's the case with him anymore. I think he's learned from that, and this Riyadh season stuff. And the link up with Turkey Al-Sheikh. I think it's
Johnny's hand there. Eddie was in another Saudi Arabia camp, wasn't it? Yeah. It was Frank Warren who brought Turkey Al-Sheikh to the table.
Absolutely, and I think what it's done is it's gave both Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn and Ed Wobble, and they're still maybe not putting the strongest of UK cards on, but it's very difficult when you see these massive cards in Riyadh. We're going to talk about one in a minute. You can see these massive cards on Riyadh season. And the stacked level all the way down the card, it's very, you get spoiled. And I think we've been spoiled.
Yep.
And it's very easy to then look at a card in the UK on a Saturday evening and go, oh, that's just not good enough. Mm-hmm. When in reality, this Magnificent Seven card, a year or two ago, would be saying that's a good card. It's a really good card.
Yeah.
The only thing you're not getting that you was getting a couple of years back is you're not getting massive headliners in the UK because they're all going on Riyadh. But that is what it is. That's just the way the landscape's changed, lads.
But sorry, just to jump back in here. I don't think it's a massive problem because it is Saudi Arabia. See if this was America or a different time zone, then I think it would cause more of a disruption. But because these cards are still happening around 10 p.m. in the UK, it doesn't. Obviously, it's not fair for the fans who go into the shows. Like all of us go boxing every couple of weeks, don't we? So I get that side of things. But ultimately, as long as the fights are still happening around that 10 p.m. corner slots, and that's another thing about Frank Warren shows now I've noticed recently is They're not going on till 1 a.m. in the morning
Yeah.
anymore. Thank God for that. So, you know, I just think overall he's done a brilliant job this year.
It is a clear choice, though. We've got as fight fans, isn't it? Do we want the odd headliner in the UK and the big fights happening in Saudi, or do we want mediocre fights and mediocre undercards with one good fight on the card to happen in the UK?
Easy decision for me as well.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? It's one of them. Okay, lads, that brings us swiftly on to the second topic for the evening. I don't know if you've done a...
Yeah, just carry on, Andy. I'll catch up with you.
Okay. Riyadh season, and I think you've got to give it to Turki Al-Sheikh. He's outdone himself once again. This card is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. There's only one fight on it. I'm not really bothered about watching, but we'll get onto that. It's absolutely stacked, and we're going to start right at the very, very top, and that's the alphabet Dimitri Bivol, undisputed light heavyweight rematch.
And again, a fight that would never ever happen if it wasn't for Riyadh season.
The rematch definitely wouldn't, mate. Because one or the other fighter, whichever won it, it'd just go off and do whatever they've got to do. They won't have to put it on the line again.
I don't think it would have happened in the first place, though.
No, probably not. Probably not. You're right. But the fact that it's happening again speaks volumes for the money that's on the table, and that's only happening because it's over there. So, Håkan, I'll come to you first, mate. If this fight is anything like the first one, we're in for an absolute treat, aren't we?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that Dimitri Bivol need to come out in a different manner and try to hold Beterbiev from him a bit more than he did in the first one, even though I had him by a round, but in the first one. But I think he in the last 2 rounds, I felt that Beterbiev took over and won the last 2 rounds and won the fight at the judges through his finish of the fight. So Bivol need to be controlling the fight at the end. So I think Bivol could do that and win it on a close UD in the rematch.
Welcome to the show, Warlock Boxing. Harrison, does round 13 continue in exactly the same vein as the first fight?
God, I hope so. I really, really do. Did you see when this got announced on Monday or Sunday, whenever it was? I honestly thought it was like, you know, those mock-up posters people do with like super fights, or like, I don't know, like Joshua fighting Ali and stuff like that, or just like, what if you could pick 8 cards to put on a thing? What would your dream card be? And I honestly, it took me like an hour to realize that this was actually happening. It's the greatest card in the history of boxing. It is the greatest card in the history of our sport, bar absolutely none. It's utterly astonishing. And it's not as if like you needed Beterbiev to fight Bivol in the main event for it to, because it was already incredible. But what a rematch we have on our hands here. And look, I know we'll speak about it closer to the time. And I'm absolutely going to want to try and be there. I mean, because it's one of those things I feel like you have to be. And let's hope round 13 continues because where it left off, because we were treated to 12 of the best rounds of raw, pure boxing that we're probably ever going to see. I worry, actually, that the rematch isn't going to live up to the first fight just because of the whole expectation and the dynamic, and they're both going to try different game plans this time. I don't think Beterbiev can win this fight again the same way he won the first fight, if that makes sense. It sounds stupid because he boxed unbelievably well, but Bivol knows now he has to just be that slight bit slicker to get the decisions and get those close rounds. Because the reason he lost that fight was because he lost really, really close rounds that could have gone either way. He just needs to box that little bit better for like 20 more seconds in like 5 rounds, and he will win. But what an astonishing night of boxing we have on our hands, and I can't wait.
Carl? you echo what Harrison says there? Do you
Bivol.
see? Do you see the game plans being different?
No.
They have to
think
be.
Bivol. No, I don't think they will have it. I think they're just going to have it again. I think you've got two very good fighters. I had Bivol winning the first fight. I think the two elite fighters. So I just think they're going to come and do it again. I think it will just revert to type once you start exchanging in the ring. I think Bivol beats him this time, and I think he'll go to a trilogy. I think it was a what you like fight, the first one, and a couple of judges had obviously better be finishing the round stronger and picking up a few rounds. I don't think they'll change the style. I just don't. I don't think they'll change it. I think Bivol will think he was unlucky to come away with the defeat, and maybe Bivol will put a. No, I'll stick to what I say. I don't think either of them will change the style. I think they'll just rerun it, pick up 13th round, and have it again. They're very respectful as two fighters. There's no shenanigans before it, so they both acknowledge that they're by far the best in their weight class. So, yeah, I just think they'll go and have it again. But I think Bivol picks this one up this time.
I kind of agree, mate. I think it's their styles. They both boxed exactly the way they box at their very best of their game. If either of them are 5% off of it, then the other fighter wins by 2 or 3 rounds. That's how close that fight was, and that's how much at the top of the game they both fought in that first fight. I'm not sure that Bivol can have any better movement than he had in the first fight. Maybe he just needs to pick the times he attacks a little bit better. I felt like at certain times in the fight, he got caught trading when he didn't need to trade. He was landing his shots and then he was staying. And this is ridiculous for me to be saying it, because who am I to be critiquing this first fight? But I just felt he maybe stayed a little bit in the pocket a little bit too long when he didn't need to do that, because his movement's so good that if he'd have come out of it, that might have been the difference between him winning and losing rounds. But
yeah, I'm not really in the game of criticising, because obviously he's in there with better BF. So he might have wanted to come out of the pocket, but just
maybe. Yeah, that's why I put that little caveat in there, mate. Because I'm no one to be put in.
But what a time to be alive! That's what I'll say. What a time to be alive in terms of.
I think Harrison said it earlier on. We may never see another fight of that level again after this one. We may never see the two very, very best at. Let's have it right, lads. These guys are right up there, pound for pound.
Yeah.
They're the best two light heavyweights of all time.
Oh yeah. I agree, mate. I agree. Without a shadow. Right. Moving swiftly on to a fight that I'm a little bit surprised about. I'm a bit surprised. I know it should happen. Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker for the IBF heavyweight title. I'm a little bit surprised that Frank Warren has picked Joseph Parker as Dubois' opponent for this fight.
It might have been Turkey that picked it.
Maybe, but it's the most dangerous fighter for Daniel Dubois, in my opinion. Without the top two, it's the most dangerous fight. You've got to give Dubois all the props in the world for taking Joseph Parker on, because I think Joseph Parker is fighting out of his skin, the best he's fought in his whole career. Harrison, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah. Well, on the Joseph Parker thing, I suspect there's probably a bit of connection with Queensbury going on there more than the public might be seeing, where I think there's some sort of deal going on there, hence this fight's what was made. Carl's probably right, it probably was Turkey Al-Sheikh that got this over the line, but there might be less risk in this than it actually looks, because obviously if Parker holds, there's going to be a rematch clause and whatnot, but we'll get into that if it happens. Joseph Parker, like you've said there, is riding an unbelievable wave at the minute, and is probably the most on-form top 10 heavyweight at the minute. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. And if it's not him, it's probably Daniel Dubois, who likewise continues to just shock people and pick up wins that he probably shouldn't be beating. Should he have beat Hrgovic? Probably not. Should he have beat Joshua? Absolutely not. So it's a funny old situation. It's a great fight. It's a good fight because it's technically very good as well, because you've got Joseph Parker, who not a huge puncher. I think that's a fair comment, but boxes so fast for a heavyweight. He's quick, dynamic, defensively very sound. But then you've got Dubois, who is just so head first and like, I'm going to just put 7 punches through you. If you want to hit me with 6, fine, and we'll see how that goes from there. And Dubois' style has never really changed, to be honest, since that Usyk loss, in my opinion. So these two meet each other heads on really nicely here. I just don't want to keep sitting here and saying Dubois is going to lose, because he keeps making me look like a mug. So, but Joseph Parker's really good. This is a pick'em, isn't it? This is really evens for me. I'd push to Dubois catching him, just because I don't want to look like a tit for rolling him out again. At least if I'm on him this time.
After Bill Smith's predictions for the last 2 years, Harrison, we're on a crest of the wave, aren't we?
We're not doing too bad. Well, I've always given Bill Smith his credit, not like yourself, but in the planet of Dubois, I don't want to get him wrong again. And he's obviously more than capable of winning this. He's the defending world champion in this situation. So I think he can catch him. But then, how come Wilder wasn't able to catch Parker? Well, see, people said Wilder had an off night, and he probably did a little bit. But then, equally, Parker was defensively sensational all night. So if he puts that same performance in...
Harrison. Joe Joyce caught him.
Joyce, yeah, but I think now... I don't know. I feel like Parker since then has just been so rejuvenated. I feel like if Parker and Joyce fought now, it would be so one-sided. So, but again, that's, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. Look, you all need to have a go talking here. I've been rambling on. I'm going to go Dubois. I think he stops him in the 10th. But I could be so wrong.
Carl, this fight for me is a fight of two fighters that have improved so dramatically in the last couple of years, and it's all about confidence for both fighters. It's all about confidence. Joseph Parker's confidence is through the roof, and Daniel Dubois he's moved to another level of self-belief.
Yeah, I agree. Ever since leaving Shane McGuigan, the trajectory has gone like the Conor Benn one, hasn't it, Andy? So, yeah, I think Joe Parker's going to beat Daniel Dubois. I think people are getting a little bit excited over Dubois beating an absolute bang average Anthony Joshua, who went in with the wrong game plan and got caught. So I want people and let's be honest, Hrgovic was shocking that night against Dubois. He did well against Usyk. Dubois did. I give him his props for that. I just think people might need to calm down a little bit. So Joe Parker's an absolute solid heavyweight. Doesn't do everything fantastic, but does everything very good. So he ain't gonna catch, he ain't gonna come charging in like Anthony Joshua did, all guns blazing and get caught on the chin. Dubois going to have to think a little bit in this fight and unpick Joe Parker. And the Andy Lee effect is playing a little bit of a percentage game for me as well, because I like Andy Lee. So I'm going for Joe Parker I'm going to go points. I'm going to go Joe Parker to win on points.
Okay, so just a little sidetrack, Cole.
Yeah.
You said about Daniel Dubois, and let's not get too excited about it.
Yes.
Other than the top two that's gonna get decided in a couple of weeks' time, who do you put as the third best heavyweight in the world at the minute?
So you're going Tyson Fury, Usyk. I'm going to go Joe Parker.
See, that doesn't make any sense, because Daniel Dubois is the world champion. So why have you said that then?
They're going to fight on Saturday. So I'm just saying I think Joe Parker is a better fighter than Daniel Dubois, and he'll prove it on Saturday.
A few Saturdays away, yeah. I think that that can only be... I think that can only be correct when he beats him. I don't think, right now, I don't understand how Parker can be better than Dubois.
I'm also putting resumes in there as well, if I'm honest with you, Harrison. Joe Parker's also beat some very good fighters recently. Take Hrgovic, take Ergovic and Joshua, undercut Joshua out of Daniel Dubois' resume, what's left is my point.
Yeah, but you could do that with any fighter. Like if I took Joseph Parker's 2 best wins away, it wouldn't look as good either. And plus, Dubois has been on a better road.
Let me put it another way to you. I'll prove I'm right when they fight in the ring. So I'm saying Joe Parker is the 3rd best heavyweight in the world, above Daniel Dubois, and he'll prove it when he gets in the ring.
There we go. Is that our first coffee of 2025 then?
That's right, yeah. And I see some comments in this side about Cabello and people like that. I'm not overly. I mean, Cabello is a very good fighter, but he hasn't proved anything yet to get anywhere near the upper echelon. So we're all doing in the course of time. You've got obviously Bicoli in the mix as well. I mean, yeah, you know that will play out in the wash. But I just think Joe Parker is very, very solid. Let's just see.
Before I come to Hawkhand and get his prediction on the fight, Harrison, I'm guessing you're going Daniel Dubois number 3.
Oh, yeah, I think so, just because of the merit of how things have gone recently. Joseph Parker would be my 4, by the way. I'm not like sticking him down in like 23. I think Parker's 4 and then AJ's 5. So it's not like there's not a huge bit to split them. And I think February will tell us who's the outright number 3.
I won't put AJ 5.
Of course you wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
But you got Zhang.
Would you put AJ 5?
No, I wouldn't. Not right now. Not after what happened.
I wouldn't either.
I think it's a difficult thing to put AJ in the top 5. It's hard. I know. It was one of them where he got caught early and then he never really recovered. But a fighter of his level should have been able to work that out and not walk straight onto that one that laid him out cold. That's the difference in the levels for me. At the minute, AJ's not in that right mind frame to be in that level of number 5, in my opinion. And
his recent wins have come against absolute bang average opponents, haven't they? In that rebuild period, let's be honest. Let's call a spade a spade.
He looked great. He looked great. He looked great against them fighters. But like you say,
he looked great in front of them fighters.
He probably didn't. But that probably didn't do him any good having those fights because he didn't get tested. Anyway, Hawkins, give us your breakdown of Daniel Dubois, Joe Parker, please.
First, I can for me, Daniel Dubois is my number 3, if you're asking, right now, today.
Yeah.
But after February 22nd, I will have another fighter as number 3.
Also, Volin.
You've got to be out of that now.
No, Otto Wallin is not fighting on February 22nd. You can guess now that my prediction is that I think that Joseph Parker wins on February 22nd, and I think it will go to points. That he wins on a unanimous decision.
I think this is such a close fight, by the way, lads. It could go either way.
Oh, come on, don't get the splinters.
No, I'm going to give you a prediction. I'm not going to sit on the fence, but I'm just saying this is a very, very, very close fight, and it could go either way. The improvement in both fighters in the last 2 years is staggering. Because you wouldn't have put either of these in a world title fight a couple of years back. Neither of them deserved it, but right now, this is the next best fight to Usyk Fury, and deserves to be as well. I'm edging towards Daniel Dubois because the confidence that he's gained under Don Charles is just ridiculous, and I also think he's improved massively in a lot of his. He's not just a massive puncher now. He sets stuff up. And that maybe wasn't the case before. There's much more to his game, lads. That's what I'm saying. There's levels to his game now that he didn't have. And maybe we're forgetting that when he lost to the Juggernaut, he was a kid. in heavyweight standards, in heavyweight levels. He's learnt so much in that time. Massive gut check in a number of fights, and I just think he's got a bit more about him now. So I'm edging it, Daniel Dubois, and I think he gets a stoppage as well. I think Joe Parker will put it all in. There'll be a lot of movement from Joe Parker to try and offset Daniel Dubois' power, and I think eventually that'll catch up with him. So I'm going Daniel Dubois stoppage, and I think it'll be, I don't know, late rounds, maybe 9 or 10. Okay, moving on to I'm going to bring this one up the bill actually, and that's a fight that I don't think anyone expected to be this early. Joshua Buatsi against Callum Smith. This is, oh man, this is a fight that, a sort of fight, British domestic fight that everyone has been asking for such a long time. Maybe not Callum Smith, but they were perhaps asking for Yard against Buatsi. But Callum Smith, and everyone was kind of shaking their heads. Why was Callum Smith fighting last weekend? Why was he so low down on the card? Well, obviously, he just wanted to get out because he knew that this was coming. Håkan, start with you. How do you see this playing out?
First, I agree that the Callum Smith fight was announced so late. It was he wanted to get out before the announcement, and I had a talk with some people in Birmingham. I met a few people. I don't want to mention them, but they told me, one guy told me that he wanted to be the first fight.
Breaking news.
I was told that Callum Smith wanted to be the first fight on the card before the fight.
It's right. Very intriguing fight.
Yeah, so, I bumped into Callum Smith after the fight at the hotel too, and I couldn't imagine that Callum Smith would be on the February 22nd card. When I talked to him, I thought Callum Smith would be in a big fight, but maybe in May, June time, not this early. So I was very surprised.
Sorry, Håkan. Carl, Joshua,
And
Go on, Håkan, finish off.
yeah, and prediction for the fight. I'm very unsure about my prediction. I think it could be too early for Callum Smith. That Buatsi might take it, but I don't think that Callum Smith is back to his best form. I think he maybe needed another one, another tune-up fight before a big one.
Carl, thanks, Håkan. Carl, Joshua Buatsi has never really hit the heights that everyone's expected him to. He was a golden boy, as we've said on a number of occasions. He was a golden boy for Matchroom at one point. Everyone was expecting him to take over the division. Never really happened. He had an opportunity to fight. Was it Bivol? Didn't want the fight. It didn't happen. Well, I don't know whether he didn't want it, but it didn't happen. Callum Smith's come up from super middleweight. He took the fight on short notice against Beterbiev. He's never going to be scared to get in with the big boys, is he? Have we seen the best of Callum Smith yet at light heavyweight?
Probably not. I think that Beterbiev result really hit him hard because he obviously come out of it saying that he's took it badly, that he isn't the best in the division. So I think he took that quite bad. But Buat's had a very stop-start career as well in terms of fights. He's not really got out that much. He's not had a consistent run of fights either.
No.
So it's a very intriguing fight. I think if they both come in on top of the game, I think Callum Smith would win. But and I'm still going to go for Callum Smith because Buatsi flatters to deceive sometimes. And if he has an off night in this fight, Callum Smith could catch him. Callum Smith's a big puncher even at this weight, right? So if he catches Buatsi, he could be in a world of trouble. But I can't. It's a difficult one to call because you don't know what fighters are coming in the ring, do you? You don't know where they are. Callum Smith in terms of ring rust. That fight on Saturday didn't really do him any favours, did it? Let's be honest. What did it achieve apart from getting him out? I'm a big fan of Callum Smith, as you know, so I'm going to lean towards Callum Smith. I think Callum Smith would just have a little bit too much to beat Buatsi. So I'm going to go Callum Smith on points. I don't think there's going to be any knockouts in this fight.
Harrison, Callum Smith took a long, hard look at himself in the mirror after the Beterbiev fight. Took him a while to get his head around whether he still wanted to be in the game, apparently. They're the stories that are coming out. I think Eddie Earns said it in interviews. He's obviously made that decision that he's got plenty left in the tank. I'm a believer that I don't think we've seen the best of Callum Smith at light heavyweight. I think he took the Beterbiev fight way too soon. He took it because it was there. He's one of them fighters, and all of his brothers have got the same mentality. They get that opportunity, they're taking it. They're not going to go, well, I'm not quite ready for that. I'll wait, which is what we've seen from Buatsi. Break it down for me, mate. Clash of styles, this, right?
Yeah, and you're right. They're an exceptional fighting family. They really are, the Smiths. They aren't the type of people, I think, to ever say no to opportunities. Obviously, when this was presented to Callum Smith, presumably
From the best city in the Northwest as well, I'm sure you'll agree, Harrison.
Hard disagree. I think that I just worry about Callum Smith's mentality. Like, I believe he 100% wants the fight and he'll be ready for it. But the preparations are different this time. When he lost to Canelo and he had the break, it was different because he had a couple of tune-up fights. He seemed to be getting his momentum back at light heavyweight. And then he went into the Beterbiev fight and I felt like he got his spirit crushed again. Like, there's no discredit to his resume losing to both Canelo and Beterbiev, who are two of the greatest boxers we're ever going to see. And Callum Smith's not a million miles behind those, but I think you're right there about the light heavyweight thing. And the preparation, like I said, is different this time. He had about a year and a half between the Canelo loss into the Beterbiev fight. This time around, he's had one sort of pointless 5-round exercise, and now he's jumping straight back into Buatsi. And I just question it a little bit. 34 now. I mean, it's not that old, but it's tricky to get behind it. But then on the other side of things, Joshua Buatsi's not exactly sat there like tick, 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 has he, over the last couple of years? Like the Willie Hutchinson fight, yeah, he dropped him twice, but he probably wasn't going to win that fight if he didn't get those knockdowns because it was a split decision. I thought he was doing enough anyways, but again, he didn't look incredible against Willie Hutchinson. We seen a bit. I remember actually the podcast we did the week before that talking about how we needed to see more from Buatsi in that fight, and I thought at glimpses we did, but then he kind of shelled back into his just reserved self, just too not wanting to put himself out there too much. Against Callum Smith, that's not an option because the way Callum Smith's going to fight and come at him, hit him with some really, really hard shots. Callum Smith's still a big puncher, light heavy. He just happened to run into the biggest puncher probably ever in the division. So this is tricky. It's really, really tricky. If Buatsi can continue to get that little bit better every single time out, he might be catching Callum Smith at the right time here. But I'm going to just lean with Callum Smith still having enough in the tank. Like I said, insane mentality, 34. He's not completely finished. His only losses have ever come to world beaters. I think he might just have enough here to get through him.
Okay. I'm like Cole. I'm a massive Callum Smith fan. I have been for years. I don't believe we've seen the best of him at this weight, and I don't think that the age thing really matters because I don't think there's a lot of miles on the clock. He had a tough fight against Canelo with that bicep injury early on in the fight.
Dead at the weight.
He was. A lot of stories come out of that. They haven't hid behind, by the way. The family haven't hid behind them. They haven't used them as excuses. And obviously, Beterbiev. You know, that could have happened to anybody, especially the way Callum fights, because he goes at fighters, and that was always going to be a tough ask against Beterbiev.
He's a great finisher, though. He's a great finisher. So if he gets to actually going, it could be lights out. Thank you for turning up. Yeah,
I'm going Callum because I do believe his catch and counter style is going to work really well. He's got to. I think the first 4 or 5 rounds might be difficult for Callum Smith because he's got to try and understand Buatsi's rhythm. Buatsi's one of them fighters. He don't fight. You don't fight in a normal boxing rhythm style. He's very awkward. He's got a very awkward defense. He's very awkward when he throws his shots. Callum's just got to get that rhythm, and once he gets it, and I think if he can get that rhythm down, he'll be able to catch and counter and land shots. I'm not sure that Buatsi will be able to take Callum Smith's power. I'm going Callum Smith late stoppage. Okay. Moving on to the WBC lightweight title, Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this fight.
Are you thinking this is way too soon for Floyd Schofield? Oh.
I am, yes. Yeah, far too soon. And obviously, other opponents have been ducked to allow Schofield to have the fight. Even Oscar De La Hoya isn't a big fan of the fight, right?
So yeah, apparently so. Are you seeing it then? Do you think it's a shutout, or do you think Shakur gets a stoppage?
I think this is this is the weakest part on the card for me. I think Shakur Stevenson's far too good for Schofield at this stage of his career, and I think he'll be a mid-round stoppage, 6 or 7.
Harrison, Schofield's shown a lot of bottle taking this fight at this point of his career. He doesn't need to do this, but he's doing it because he's getting the opportunity on a massive platform against probably the best fighter in the division. Do you see it same as Carl? I mean, Floyd's shown a lot of promise. There's a lot of ability there, and he probably needs honing for another good 2 or 3 years, really, before he should be going anywhere near Stevenson in reality. Do you give him any sort of chance in this fight?
Look, this kid's really good. I mean, the difficult thing is, though, he's not in a position after 17, 18 fights that, like, Gervonta Davis was, even what Shakur Stevenson was, Teofimo Lopez, and that might probably be what costs him. But I still think he probably deserves the shot, because if he didn't take it now, the way this division is very enclosed, and we're going to see hopefully plenty of unifications and undisputed titles in the next 12 months. Very American-dominated division as it historically is, but at the minute, very much so. We've barely got a shoe in, haven't we? I don't blame Schofield for taking this opportunity at all. And I think he's got, he's got belief in himself. The problem is Shakur Stevenson is like utterly invincible, in my opinion. There's very few fighters on the planet. I think the only person that would beat him would be Tank. Other than that, I don't think anyone, Stevenson, it's a shame Daz isn't on, because I feel like Daz would absolutely eat up the Shakur Stevenson discussion here, because he's just a pure boxer. He's absolutely phenomenal. He should just win this, yeah. It's probably the most one-sided fight on the card, but I still think it's harsh to call it weak, to be honest. I think, it's a good fight. It's not like Stevenson's getting a free hit here. He will have to work, I think, for it. Schofield, very quick fighter. He can land punches, but can he do that for 12 rounds against Stevenson? I don't think so.
I'm probably calling it weak, Harrison, on the against the backdrop of what fights could have happened.
See, this is the problem with fickle fight fans like you. You're getting too spoilt now. You're like a kid at Christmas. You're getting too many good things at once.
I'm not sure why that's being fickle. Are you telling me there's not at least 5 fighters who would be better placed to jump in with Shakur Stevenson?
This isn't Disney. You can't have like magic rainbows coming out all the time for
Well,
the balance of the card and everything. If this was a main event in the States on Prime pay-per-view,
be about as many people as normal American fight nights, probably a phone box full.
See, I still think it'd do 200,000-300,000 pay-per-views. This is a main event. I really do.
Yeah.
It is one of them. It is one of them, lads. It's way too soon, but props to Floyd Schofield for taking this fight. Håkan, how do you see it?
I think Shakur will dominate from the first round to the 12th round and win every round on a unanimous decision. I think Shakur is too good for the kid Austin.
So fickle.
Okay, moving swiftly on to the WBC middleweight title. Carlos Adams defends against Hamzah Sheeraz. This is an absolute barnstormer, in my opinion, mate. Håkan, come to you first, mate.
Yeah, and, I'm looking forward to this one, to Hamzah Sheeraz in a world title fight. And this one was expected to be on this card before they announced it. And I think Hamzah Sheeraz will be world champion, and I think he will stop Adames round 5, round 6.
Harrison, I think Carlos Adams hasn't really got anyone on his resume that stands anywhere near the levels of Hamzah Sheeraz. He's an absolute monster at middleweight. I don't know how he still makes the weight, I gotta be honest. Do you see anything other than a Hamzah Sheeraz stoppage?
I do not. This fight's been coming for a long time, like Håkan said there. Hamzah Sheeraz has been highly ranked with the WBC for like forever, and we feel like we've been talking about wanting to get him into a world title opportunity for so long, and I'm really happy for Hamzah Sheeraz that he's finally got this over the line, and credit to Carlos Adames as well for taking it in Saudi Arabia. Look, Adames is a very good fighter. He's a deserving world champion of his time as well. He has been probably too well protected by PBC, which can happen with the world champions sometimes, where they are in very one-sided world title defenses. Terrell Gachet last time out didn't offer much. Julian Williams is a very good fighter, to be fair, on his day, but again, he made him look quite easy. Hamzah Sheeraz is just too good. It's simple as like the British fighter who's not the world champion, but Hamzah Sheeraz is one of our best. Absolutely, I'm gospel to that. I really am. He is just brilliant. He needed the fight to happen now as well, because he must be dying inside trying to make 11-6, because look at the size of the bloke. He's about 2 in me, and I weigh 3 times what he does. He's massive. Like, he's huge. I don't understand how he's still making 11-6. So credit to him. I think this will be very simply a case of he wins this world title, vacates it, and moves straight up to 68, in my opinion. I think he's kind of waiting on the Canelo situation to phase out as well. That'll be a big help for him. But I think he'll be way too good here, and I think he will stop a very aggressive Carlos Adames.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief because it's been covered, really. I bet the WBC are rubbing their hands together for Sheeraz to win this belt, because at least someone with a bit of profile will hold the title, because PBC did a shocking job with his profile, let's be brutally honest. Even some hardcore fans in the UK wouldn't know who this guy is, and he's holding the green and gold strap. I think I'll go and say Hamzah Sheeraz is an absolute special talent, and I think he actually beats Canelo at super middle if he ever gets a chance to jump in the ring with him. Yeah. So I agree with Harrison. I think what happens is
you don't agree with me. You don't agree with me, because I don't want to be associated with you saying that he beat Canelo.
He beats Canelo. Now he'll beat Canelo. So he'll win the WBC belt, step up to super middleweight, which is an awful division. Let's be honest, absolute awful division. and I'll say it again because I like to have an opinion. I'm saying that Hamzah Sheeraz would beat Canelo Alvarez if they jumped in the ring tomorrow, never mind in a year's time.
Harrison, I've got to let you have a little say on that.
I don't want one. I don't want to be associated with this.
Well, there's nothing that we can argue about because it hasn't happened. So, it's not like we've got anything to go against where he can argue one view and I argue the other because they've not been anywhere near each other. He'll prove his point when he jumps up super middle.
I'm guessing you're strong, aren't you? Well, to be fair, that's probably. I mean, that's the fight that. See, the turnaround's quick because obviously, if Canelo's going to fight Cinco de Mayo, if Sheeraz does get himself into a bit of a war here, he's only going to have about a 10-ish week turnaround. So I think that'll come too soon. So I don't think it would be Canelo and Sheeraz next. I think it would probably be the September date he does.
Do you think this will be a war at the weekend?
Do I think what? Sorry.
Sorry. Do you think it's going to be a war when these two meet in February?
No. I think Sheeraz will be just too good for him. I think he'll stop him in the mid rounds. I just worry that asking Sheeraz then to go 4th or 5th of May is going to be a big ask. Really. I think so. Yeah, I think Canelo will fight. God knows, I don't know. There's not many, is there?
I think this is an absolute non-conversation because I don't think Hamzah Sheeraz goes up anytime soon. I think he'll go up soon.
I think he'll go up next year, and I think
he'll do his best to clear the division, Carl, first.
It depends on only he will know how it's killing him to get down to middleweight. Only he will know. If he has got the legs at that weight class, yes, go and clear the division because no one's going to give him any trouble.
No, just
Janabek, I still think he beats him, but I just think he can't have that frame and continue to make that weight. He's gonna, as he gets older, it's gonna get more difficult. Stating the bleeding obvious. I think he'll go up, and I look at the super middleweight division. Let's be honest, it's crap. I've said it once. I've said it loads of times. Compared to past eras, crap. So
Canelo's cleared everybody out now. It's kind of just stagnant.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot.
Every good fighter that wants moving up, Benavidez has moved. Very few that are actually left at 168 now. So
I'm just thinking with Sheeraz being a Riyadh ambassador as well, whatever that means, Turkey al-Sheikh's likely to make that fight happen, right?
If Canelo comes over and fights in Riyadh, yeah, I still think that's a little bit of an if. I
don't think that happens. Canelo doesn't need the money. He doesn't need to fight in Riyadh.
He doesn't, but who's his opponents then for these big fight nights that he has now in May and September?
The thing is, though, Carl, he doesn't need. No, but what I'm saying to you is he doesn't need Turkey to make those fights happen. Whatever fight Turkey could make in Riyadh, he can make in Texas.
Yeah, but even taking that aside, so let's take the money out of the equation. Who is there? Benavidez, I'd argue yes. But who else?
But he won't fight Benavidez.
No, there isn't anyone, you're right. But I don't think that means that he gets Hamzah Sheeraz anytime soon.
Well, see, the thing is, he still has that. He still has the same problem, whether it's Saudi Arabia or America, that there's no one left to fight anymore. And that, for me, is why it's less convincing that he's going to come over and be a part of this Riyadh situation. Because if he wanted to fight Sheeraz in Vegas, that happens next week, like on his terms, on his card, with his judges, everything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I don't think that they'll risk Hamzah Sheeraz's profile just yet against Canelo Alvarez. I believe they'll build him and build him and build him and build him into an absolute megastar and then make the Canelo fight in about a year and a half, 2 years' time.
But his profile would go through the roof by fighting Canelo, win or lose.
True.
Yeah, but his profile's going to go through the roof anyway, fighting on the Riyadh cards and clearing a division.
But not as quickly as jumping in with Canelo.
Yeah, but you don't need to rush into that, is what I'm saying, Cole. You don't need to rush into that. Look at his age. You don't need to rush into it.
The only other anomaly too, though, like you said there about whether he, should he wait a year to fight Canelo? We don't really know how long Canelo's got left in the sport either. Like we said there, if all of the big names are done, and let's assume he's not going to go up to light heavyweight again and try and fight Beterbiev, Bivol, etc. This could be his last year in boxing. He could easily just take his last Cinco de Mayo, his last independence, and then off to the sunset. I owe you nothing. I'm the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. Hasta la vista. So
Maybe.
that as well.
Maybe. Okay, moving swiftly on then, boys. Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov.
Good fight.
It is a good fight. I just want to say, I'm having none of this crap about Boots Ennis ducking Virgil Ortiz Jr. I'm not having it. First and foremost, the 2 weights apart. Boots Ennis has got no reason to have to move up to super welterweight right now. I don't understand the narrative that's being put out there on socials that Boots is ducking Virgil Ortiz. I don't get it. It wasn't that long ago that Virgil Ortiz and Boots were on a bit of a trajectory to fight each other at welterweight. You know, they were both seen as the next big things in it, and Virgil obviously can't make the weight now, and he's moved up. That don't mean that fight has to happen next. There's a lot of fights and a lot of big paydays for Boots at welterweight. Anyway, that's my little rant over. Back to this fight. Start with you, Carl. Good fight, right?
Yeah, I like this fight. I think this fight's got a potential of being a bit of a war. Both fighters like to come forward. They ain't have to go hunting for each other, either. I like Madrimov. He's being rewarded for being in some good fights, right? He always brings the action, don't he? He gives one to take one, etc., etc. I just think Virgil Ortiz have that little bit too much for him. So I'm going to go Virgil Ortiz to win this fight on points.
Harrison, do you think Madrimov has enough to beat Virgil Ortiz? Have we seen the best of Virgil at super well?
We've not seen the best of him yet. No, I mean, if he beats Madrimov, it'd be very difficult to say that we haven't then seen the best of him. I just still worry that Sergey Bohacek's being really, really overlooked here, because that fight with Madrimov at Christmas in a few weeks' time, that's not a walkover. That's not a simple Madrimov's going to stop him in 5 rounds. That's a really good fight. I do think Madrimov will beat Bohacek, but if that
really
ends up taken,
that's still happening, mate. I'm really surprised that's still happening.
Yeah, and you know what? It shows Madrimov's got a set of balls on and go in these two fights straight back to back in the space of about 9 weeks. So fair play to him. It's good to see boxers doing. You know, we need more of that. But if Madrimov gets himself into a bit of a war with Bohacek, which is very possible, I mean, that's not a crazy thing to say, is it? Then when he comes around to fight Virgil Ortiz in the space of 10 weeks, given he won't have had any time off, he'll be one camp into the other. Ortiz might get a really nice version of Madrimov that's just not that ready, to be honest. If this was a month later, I might have had a different opinion, but I think the timing here for Ortiz is just brilliant. Look, Virgil Ortiz is an all-class fighter. Never, ever looked in any sort of trouble of losing. He's got great power. He's a very good fighter. I think he's got a good stint ahead of him at super welterweight. I can see him and Bud Crawford being on a bit of a crossroads in this next couple of years. So, I think Ortiz wins this just because I don't like the timing for Madrimov going back-to-back so hardcore. But it's a really good fight. It could go either way. But I think Ortiz might just get him on points.
Håkan, is it a crazy decision that Madrimov's still taking this fight?
100%. Sergey Bohacek is a beast. 23 KO in 24 wins. And I think he will stop Madrimov. I had Bohacek winning against Ortiz. It was a close fight, but I had him by a round in that fight. And so I think this is crazy that they have announced this fight with the Bohacek fight. I think if it goes to points and Madrimov win on points, I think Bohacek will had Madrimov down like he had with Ortiz. So I think I do think that this fight will not happen. It's too soon, 2 months.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. I'll be very surprised if there's not conversations going on to put that back and have it as maybe the winner of this Ortiz Madrimov fight. It's going to take too much out of Madrimov. He then can't be ready for Ortiz, in my opinion. He won't be 100%.
Surely, if I suppose this is a question back to both of you though. If Boacek beats Madrimov now at Christmas time, shouldn't he be the one fighting Virgil Ortiz then in February? I mean, that's the only fair way of doing it, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. The
of
Virgil
course.
Ortiz fight won't happen if Madrimov loses. He can't because it makes a mockery, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
do you think there's a chance that this first fight gets pulled? Boacek fight gets pulled?
No.
Surely, though, the turnaround's way too... I mean, it's going to be a war. Surely the turnaround is way too soon, and you're not going to get the best Madrimov in that fight against...
Some fighters do react a little bit differently with 2 camps back-to-back, because a lot of fighters have said that when they've had fight cancelled and the new date given, and they've jumped straight into another camp, sometimes it felt a lot more fresher when they get between the ropes. I'm not saying that happens all the time.
Yeah, you're right, though.
There's a lot to be said for for staying active. So, it could work in Madrimov's favour.
I'm not convinced. There's a big difference between having camps back to back and having 2 fights back to back, especially this one. Boacek's an absolute beast, like Orkan said. I think it's a really bad decision. A really bad decision.
Not playing bank balance is not.
No, but you got to think. You got to be a bit smarter than that, haven't you? You got to be, as a fighter, you got to be smarter than that.
He obviously thinks it can work in his favour, so don't rule that out just yet. Let's see what his performance looks like. If he does win that first fight,
he could blow Boacek out.
He could, and he could also get blown out himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very, considering the money that's probably on the table for this fight against Ortiz, and the profile of the fight against Ortiz, I think it's a crazy decision. Just my opinion, but I think it's a crazy decision. I think his team... time will tell, but I think his team are making a really bad decision here. Anyway, last one on the card, lads. Zhilei Zhang, WBC interim heavyweight title against Ajit Kabayal. How do you see this one playing out, Harrison?
Nice fight. Maybe not the most exciting visually. 2 big boys, aren't they? But I think that both of these have worked themselves into a very deserving position on these Saudi Arabia cards. I've said it a few times, but I don't think anyone, maybe bar Joseph Parker, has taken more advantage of Riyadh's season than what Ajit Kabayel has. Because before this, he was just sort of like the European champion that none of us had ever really watched or heard of or cared about. But since then, he's been on a big roll, some big wins, the Frank Sanchez one especially, but he's been tearing things up. But then again, Zhilei Zhang's barely put a foot wrong himself. All right, fair enough. The Joseph Parker loss, he was poor, and that was. But then that kind of just goes to pivy how well Parker's done. But you think Zhang's took Joyce out twice. He beat Deontay Wilder, which was like couldn't happen. It literally that just wasn't an option, was it? But he didn't just beat Deontay Wilder. He made him look like an absolute fool, really, for trying to have another go at boxing. So these 2 meet in a really good crossroads. Zhang's power is destructive. And possibly that's what's going to win him this fight, is that he has got that big punch that... See, it's tricky because I remember Makhmudov, we talked about him being like this monster puncher as well, but then Kabayel took care of him. Frank Sanchez, not a huge puncher, but a good boxer. But Zhang just has something about him that makes me think that, he should just be too good here. It feels bad to knock Kabayel, and I think he's got a great live chance in this. I think it's about a 60-40 fight, but I think if Zhang catches him, Zhang could knock anybody out.
Carl, this is the one fight on the card I said earlier on. There's one fight on the card I wasn't really bothered about. This is the one fight on the card I'm not interested in watching, really.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say about Caballero is, Frank Sanchez been proving to be a little bit average in the heavyweight division until, let's be honest, his resume, I worry about his level of opponent. Looking through his resume, no one of Zhilei Zhang's level, if I'm being honest. So he's got a lot to prove to me yet that he belongs at the top table of heavyweight boxing, Caballero. I like to see what is going to happen when Zhang lands on him. Not really been in with any punches either of note. So there's a lot of question marks for me against Ajit Kabir. We know what we're going to get from Zhilei Zhang. He's going to put his hands up and walk forward, right? So, yeah, I don't quite agree with you, Andy. I think it's quite an intriguing fight for the landscape of heavyweight boxing. We're going to learn a bit more about Ajit Kabir in this fight, but I do think Zhilei Zhang will probably beat him. I think he'll knock him out. I think I'm going for around 7 or 8. I think he'll be in trouble.
Okay, Håkan, last comment of the night to you.
Yeah, I like this fight, and looking forward to that to the fight. And I think that Zhilei Zhang is on a level above Caballero, and I think he will land and will knock out Caballero in round 5.
Okay. I'm not buying into this Caballero nonsense. I think Mike Madov looked poor the night he beat him. I don't rate Frank Sanchez, never have. I don't think Caballero is the fighter that everyone's making him out to be. Zhang's just one of them, isn't he? You know what you're getting, and if you can't break him down, you're in for a really tough night's work. I see Zhang getting a points decision in a poor fight. Yeah, it's just one that I'm probably going to skip. I'll go for a cup of tea or something when that's on. It's just one of them lads, I'm afraid. Just doesn't interest me. Right, that's about it for the night, boys. Thanks to everyone in the sidebar for your comments. Some great comments tonight. Carl, pleasure as always, mate.
Thank you.
Håkan, thanks for joining, mate.
Thank you.
Harrison.
Pleasure, Andy. I'm off to brush me out.
Yeah, you do that, pal. You might want to get a little bit of an haircut as well, but we'll see.
You might want to start by washing it.
This has been Last Bell Boxing, proudly sponsored by LW Liftings and S&C Travel. Join us on Sunday for the review of this weekend's card, Magnificent 7. 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and this show is always 7 o'clock on a Thursday. Nothing changes for Last Bell Boxing. We always stick to those times. That's the way it's always going to be.